Race Display steering wheel is quite possibly the most over-the-top modification offered directly through BMW, and today we're going to talk about it. Now, huge thank you to keysmotorsports.com for sending me this wheel. I will drop some affiliate links down in the description if you guys want to check those out. So for those who are unfamiliar, the display wheel is a high-tech steering wheel that's got these shift indicator lights built into the top of the wheel, as well as this little LCD screen. And unlike a lot of these wheels that we see popping up on Alibaba and eBay, this is actually a genuine BMW part number that you could have installed at your local dealership. The display wheel is finished in Alcantara, and it's got the BMW M Performance colored stitching on the inside of the wheel, and then if you get the kit from Keys Motorsports, it's also going to include the genuine dry carbon fiber trim that matches the rest of the interior. When you first start the car, the LEDs at the top are going to greet you with this little light dance, and then you're going to see the M Performance logo displayed on the screen, and then to actually turn the wheel on, you're just going to hold down these two buttons. These little buttons at the 10 and 2 position are used to change settings and navigate menus using a combination of short, long, and double presses. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of cumbersome to use and it did take a while to get the hang of. When you initially set up the wheel, you can change the brightness of the display, you can choose between metric or imperial units, and you can also choose the RPM that you want the little shift lights to come on at. And then after the wheel is set up, you can toggle between the three modes, which are efficient dynamics, sport, and race. You can also turn off the wheel at any time by just holding down these two buttons for about 3 seconds. To check out the different modes, you use the R and L buttons to choose a menu, and then long press the R button to enter it. From here, short presses of the L button will toggle between the functions within each menu, and then a double press of the L button will take you back out to the main menu. In efficient dynamics mode, you have a fuel consumption stopwatch, consumption average speed, and efficient dynamics index. Now this mode is kind of silly to me because after all, this wheel is meant to be used in race cars, so it's kind of weird that they would devote 1/3 of the menus to fuel efficiency. Sport mode is the mode that I tend to be in the most. In that mode, you have lateral and longitudinal G-force with a stopwatch. You have lateral G-force with memory that will save 30 consecutive turns that you can go back and review later on. And you also have coolant and oil temperature. For just casual daily driving, a lot of the times I just keep it on the oil and coolant temperatures. That way I can keep a more accurate eye on things. Although it would have been nice to have oil pressure, since the oil temperature already has its own analog gauge on the instrument cluster. Now the display is capable of showing real-time RPM, but for some reason that's only available in the initial setup of the LED lights when you're setting up the rev limiter. You can't actually see them in any of the other modes. Finally, there's race mode, which is meant for track use only. In this mode you have a lap timer, a race section clock, and a quarter-mile timer. There's actually a measuring trigger that you can get that will automatically capture your lap times on a racetrack using an infrared receiver that's sold separately. I'll be honest with you, the install of this thing was pretty involved and it took me about 7 hours, like including filming and everything. Now you could probably do it in about 3 hours if you're not stopping to document each step, but still I would plan a full day for this just so that you don't feel rushed. Now the car won't be drivable during the installation for obvious reasons. You won't have a steering wheel, so it's really important to have all the tools before you get started. I would say this is probably an intermediate to advanced install. It involves removing the airbag, taking the steering column apart as well as part of the dashboard. You're going to be repinning wires, you're going to be tapping wires into one of the car's control modules. There's a lot of little tedious steps, and if you miss even one of those steps, the wheel simply won't work. It is doable though, and I felt a lot of satisfaction having done it myself. I will link my DIY video down below. You guys can check it out and see if it's something that you want to try for yourself. Because the steering wheel actually has its own standalone control module, there's no coding required. Once you're done, you just reconnect the battery and the wheel simply works, which is really a miracle for BMW. Now, some people were asking about the airbag, if you have to change anything with that. Because you're reusing your stock airbag and you're not changing any of the airbag wiring, there's no error codes with that, and as far as the car is concerned, it's not even going to know that the airbag has been taken out. So what's it actually like to drive and live with this wheel? It really makes the car feel exotic. Like when you're sitting in here, it feels like you're in the cockpit of a high-end supercar. And I know I've said this before, but when I get in here and look around at all this stuff, especially the wheel, it's really hard to believe that this is just a 3 Series. The thickness of the wheel is about the same as the Sportline wheel that my car came with, so that wasn't really a big deal for me as far as the thickness of the rim. At nighttime, especially on dark roads, the shift lights can get a little bit annoying, so it is cool that you do have the option to turn those off if you want. The Alcantara did take a while to get used to though. It's kind of an unusual texture to have on a steering wheel. I haven't had it long enough for it to need a really deep cleaning, but if I notice that it's dusty, I'll just take like a dry microfiber and just kind of dust it off, and it's not been a big deal for me. I will say that it does make me hyper aware of how clean or dirty my hands are, and lately I've gotten the habit of, like, if I go to the skate park, I'll actually bring extra water with me to wash my hands off before I get in and drive home. Some people have recommended to get driving gloves. I don't know if that's really my style, but maybe leave a comment down below if there's a pair that you recommend. So as cool as this wheel is, it's not without its quirks. First of all, when you start the car, the wheel is actually off by default and you have to manually turn it on each time. I think I'd want it to be the opposite. I think I would want the wheel on all the time with the option to turn it off. I mean, you're paying so much money to get this extra functionality. I would think that you would want the wheel to be on more often than not. Also, after 10 minutes of driving, that little screen at the top actually goes to sleep. The shift indicator lights will still work, but if you want to wake the screen up, you just have to tap either one of the buttons. I actually checked the manual and there's no settings or anything to change that. That's just how the wheel is programmed. I can't think of any logical reason why it would be that way, but again, I would think I'd want the wheel to be on all the time with the option to turn it off when I decide. But the single biggest quirk of this wheel is the operating temperature threshold. If the temperature is above 140 degrees Fahrenheit, the wheel simply won't turn on. If you try to turn it on, the little lights will just blink red and then turn off. Now, the first time that it did that, I panicked because I thought that the wheel was broken. We had gone shopping or something and the car was sitting out in a hot parking lot with no shade. I got in and the wheel wouldn't turn on. I checked the owner's manual and sure enough, it's actually a safety feature to protect the electronics inside the wheel, which I thought is kind of weird because for something that's made to be used inside a car, you know, all the electronics in here are tested to a certain temperature. Why the temperature threshold for this is so low, I don't really understand. Almost seems like a design flaw or an oversight in my opinion. But if you turn on the air conditioning for a couple minutes, it cools down and it'll start working again. For me, living in Michigan, this is only an issue like 2 or 3 months out of the year and only if I'm parking in full sun. But if you lived in like Florida or Texas, I could see that getting annoying. So if you plan on buying this wheel, there are a couple things to know. First of all, the wheel does not include the airbag, buttons, or paddle shifters. So if you've got an M3 or an F30 M Sport, you're gonna have to reuse all that stuff. You're gonna have to use your airbag and buttons and all that and just transfer them over onto the new wheel. Now, if you've got a base model 3 Series that's got the different shape steering wheel, you're gonna have to rebuy all that stuff separately. But they do make a version of this wheel where that stuff will fit. It's just a different part number. Also, the display wheel doesn't support the heated wheel functionality for some reason. Now, my car didn't have a heated steering wheel, so no loss here. But if that's a feature that you like and that you use all the time, that's probably going to be a deal breaker. Now, you could still install the wheel, you just won't have the heated functionality. Alright, so as I'm finishing up this edit, I realized that this steering wheel isn't going to be for everybody considering the price tag and the installation difficulty. Now, if you're watching the video, you're looking for some interior modification ideas and maybe you're wondering like what's the next best thing, I would highly recommend the P3 vent gauge. I've got one in my car, and with that you've got like 12 different parameters. You've got things that even the steering wheel can't do, like boost pressure, 0 to 60 time, you have air fuel ratio, and a few others. And it's a fraction of the price of the wheel, and it's super easy to install. It just clips into the top of your air vent and then plugs into your car's OBD2 port. So you can put one in about 20 minutes. So I'm going to link those down below as well. They make them for a few different BMW models. But hey guys, thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far in the video with no plans to even buy the wheel, I really appreciate you guys. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the content, and I will see you in the next video. The BMW M Performance Race Display I can already see how this is going to go.